Hello, and welcome to the Land and Climate Podcast. This time I spoke to Timur Manurung, Executive Director of Origa Nusantara, an NGO that aims to protect the remaining natural forests in Indonesia, about their new report finding already extensive deforestation from the recent growth of the forest biomass industry in the country. As Timur goes on to explain, the industry based around the burning of wood for energy threatens natural forests across Indonesia and has been driven by the country's new energy targets involving the conversion of its numerous coal-fired power plants to using tree burning as an alternative, and growing demand from South Korea and Japan, who are also seeking to take advantage of subsidies related to burning biomass. We've actually included the report and some of the images of the area of impact in the podcast blurb, so you can perhaps get a better idea of the impacted areas as you're listening to the interview.
It is coal companies actually that expanding their business without divesting their coal, but expanding to biomass. So they are kind of hijacking climate agenda.
I began by asking Timur to explain the main findings of the report and how the research had actually come about.
Since the beginning, we do not aware actually the threat of the biomass, although some international partners already inform us that biomass is coming to our country. But then since we decide to start looking at this, and then we send our investigator to the field, starting with Gorontalo in the northern of Sulawesi. When discussing deforestation, usually we skip Sulawesi because usually in deforestation we told Indonesia, we discuss about Kalimantan or Papua. But then this Sulawesi, and we send our investigator to the field, and we found thousands of deforestation is ongoing. And we found a biomass mill that starting in 2021 in the forest. So the mill is in the forest. And then we are aware that this huge deforestation will coming because the concession is about 20,000 hectares or 270 kilometers squares. That part we still, okay, it's huge deforestation, but perhaps not that big. But then we get the information of biomass concession in the country and quite new, and we found there is 1.5 million hectares of concessions already. And then we send our team again to other provinces. We sent to North Kalimantan. We found a new biomass that's starting deforestation in the pristine forest of Kalimantan, including that one landscape with the Sarawak Islands, the pristine natural forest. We send again to other provinces in this Kalimantan. We found higher deforestation in the concession that ongoing constructing its mill. So there will be new mill there. And then we also working with another project investigation that at the time it's most on supply chain of timber. But then we see the deforestation because of the biomass. So then we then aware that it is systematic concession that coming to Indonesia, and we decide to sit a bit and analyze. And we found that 99% of our export of wood pellet is Japan and South Korea. Dig deeper on the national data, we found that our electricity plant putting biomass as a potential big so-called co-firing. So as replacing part of coal with timber with woody. And it is we have a policy that mandating in Java, Bali, and Madura, we will have 10% of co-firing, mean 10% of the energy to be burned is from wood. Out of that will be 20%. So if then we follow that up, there will be increase of need almost about 84-fold, 8,400% increase the needs of the biomass for domestic. So then it will be huge because at the moment we do not have that concession, means that it will be potential deforestation. So there will be at least two jeopardy to the climate. First will be increased deforestation, and the second one will burn the timber, will burn the wood for energy. That's kind of double jeopardy in literal situation that we found it.
Indonesia itself has energy targets to 2030, is it? That demand use of biomass as well as there being a market export to Japan and the demand in Japan and South Korea for biomass, which actually, to explain for listeners, biomass is the burning of wood for energy.
There is two situations. So then, in the number of domestic, in 2022, we only consume for our electricity about 70,000 tons. In 2023, we consume almost 500,000 tons already. In 2020, if the co-firing mandate implement, we will need about 8 million tons per year. So that's why 84 volts, 8,400% increase the consumption domestically. While Japan and South Korea also signaling they still need higher biomass as well.
I mean, if we're talking about hectares, I mean, 10 million hectares is equivalent to the size of, say, Iceland or Bulgaria, or even South Korea itself, actually. It's the sort of land size of South Korea. And I thought that was quite an astounding number. This is tropical forest area that's at threat, isn't it?
In the existing concession, we have 500,000 hectares natural forest remaining. So it's 5,000 square kilometers, means about 7 times of Singapore.
Was this a year-long investigation? And what did it involve in terms of the actual research that you did?
We collaborate with many organizations, including international like Earth Insight, Mighty Earth, SFOC, Save for Our Climate of South Korea, also Japan NGOs, but also we collaborate with Indonesian NGOs like Forest Watch Indonesia and Trend Asia. So it's a big collaborative research by NGOs. We also send multiple times of our investigator to the field, and we get so many government data as well. So it's kind of conclusive, and it takes about 6 months of research and investigation.
And then in terms of the actual incentives that there are in Indonesia, so there's the 2030 target or the energy target that exists. There's obviously exports to Japan and South Korea. There's a similar situation that we covered in other podcasts around the incentives for subsidy, say in the UK and Europe. I mean, is it exactly the same kind of subsidy that exists for biomass in regards to Indonesian biomass?
In Korea, South Korea and Japan, the government is subsidize the using of biomass. It is also one of the cause of the increasing of sending our wood pellet or wood chips to South Korea and Japan because they subsidize. Indonesia, we do not have the specific subsidy yet at the moment in terms of the price. But since the government decide that they expand co-firing, mean they provide markets. And it is subsidy as well. So there will be buyer for this biomass. And we have the situation before when Indonesia is the producer of coal, but for our electricity, we buy the coal domestically with the international price. So then there will be a situation that this biomass producer will negotiate to have international price as well. And why I say this, because most of this biomass concession is owned by coal companies. So it is coal companies actually that expand their business to have biomass concession at the moment. So it is, if you know Adaro is big coal producer in Indonesia. The Gorontalo mill, it's owned by Adaro. So they expand to the forestry, they expand to deforestation to produce biomass. And that means that they will negotiate. In East Kalimantan, it is Indica Corporation that owns one of the top 5 of coal producer in the country. In North Kalimantan, it is Mitra Bara, another main coal producer in Indonesia. So it is coal companies actually that expanding their business without divesting their coal, but expanding to biomass. So they are kind of hijacking climate agenda by saying biomass is temporary green transition, and then they produce the biomass and then they will get profit multiple from expanding the market, and also then the price possibly will be international because then our electricity will compete with Japan. Since we decide we need huge amount of biomass, then possibly Japan market will step aside, for example, but then to step that aside, Indonesia should provide higher price or at least similar price. That's That's the situation.
If we're talking about biomass itself, I mean, there is research to show that biomass is more emitting than coal per unit of energy. So what you've got really is you've got the coal companies that are converting to actually an even more polluting or more emitting energy form. And at the same time, they've got incentives and making quite a lot of money from that. So the areas that you were looking at, what kind of forests are they? And are there associated impacts on wildlife, etc.?
In the Gorontalo area, it was proposed to be a kind of important bird area. So there are specifically Sulawesi. Sulawesi is very rich on bird and mostly bird and some small primates, but in this area is birds. In Central Kalimantan, it is whole concession, it is orangutan habitat. In North Kalimantan and East Kalimantan, also orangutan habitat. In Sumatra, we found also that it is part of the elephant and tiger habitat. So it will be devastating for flagship species, or not just the trees, but also the wildlife. That's one thing. The other part is we found that in Gorontalo, for example, it is in conflict with local communities. It is being protested by local communities. And even there are violent conflict between local and the companies, because companies then supported by military and police. So it's bloody conflict. In Central Kalimantan, it is also being protested by local communities because the concession somehow overlap with their local community areas. Quite similar in North Kalimantan, also being protested by local. So it's kind of socially in local conflict, producer, and then forests being deforesting, and also orangutan, tiger, elephant, birds also being impacted.
What does the government say about biomass policy? Has it expressed itself, given a view?
If you look at the publication in Indonesia, it's kind of still considering that biomass is green energy. I think it started with a kind of misinformation here. We need to neutralize the information, showing the realities, presenting research from everywhere. That's showing, as you mentioned, it is more emitting than coal even. So then we need to provide this to the government. Then one of our next plan is advocating to the government to reverse or kind of improve the policy or to scaling down this biomass expansion.
What do you think the immediate solutions are in Indonesia around this? I mean, you mentioned misinformation and education.
Yeah, we are, because in Indonesia at the moment, deforestation is not automatically illegal. So we need to make sure that the government to protect all remaining natural forests. That's one thing that we need to pursue. There will be no deforestation by this biomass expansion. That's one thing. The second one, even though not forests, because burning the woods is somehow bigger emitting than coal, means these false climate solutions. So we need to push the government to truly come to the renewable energy. We have wind energy, we have solar, etc., but not being researched or not being invested and not being subsidized like coal. I think another target will be then how the government to come with the truly renewable energy, not false energy like biomass.
And are you optimistic about that?
I cannot say that I'm pessimistic, but it's challenging. But whatever it is, we have to say what we need as a country to have a more greener air, greener, and also more environmental friendly situation.
I mean, is there anything else you'd like to add about the report itself?
We need international pressure to stop this devastating and to stop this misinformation of climate solution. The current government is very close with the coal companies. We have many ministers that also own coal companies as well. So we have Prabowo in the coming days will be president. Now he is Ministry of Defense. We have Luhut Panjaitan that kind of considers the real presidents, but he is a Minister of Investment. Also have coal companies. We have Erick Thohir is that his brother is own the Gorontalo concession, coal companies, Adaro as well. So we have Sandiaga Uno. We have so many ministers that have coal companies and extractive industry. not just coal companies, but also nickel. That's one thing that they know what happened in the international. So they benefiting from that international discourse on climate solution and then provide. So it's kind of political corruption, basically, Indonesia at the moment. Because they sit in the ministry, so then they have permit issuance. In the Gorontalo case, for example, even those areas being excluded from the government forestry estate. So it's now private land and owned by the companies. That situation, not just the direct subsidies, but also direct kind of subsidies in policy on permitting. That's the potential conflict of interest, actually. This conflict of interest is the one that making biomass expanding at the moment. Because the new president is one of the ministers that own the coal companies, well, as I said, it is challenging. But whatever it is our need to have a greener situation. I think we have to say it is what it is. So protecting forests, it is our future. Having greener or more fresh air, it is our situation. Having the real climate solution, it is our need. So I think whatever the political situation, I think we have to push. We have to keep trying, keep pushing to the greener situation.
My thanks to Timur Manurung of Origo Nusantara for his time. As I mentioned earlier, we've included some suggested reading in the podcast blurb, which includes images and maps of the impacted areas and a link to the report itself. And at Timur's recommendation, we've also included a link to the site of the Indonesian GECO project, which includes an in-depth investigation into the Indonesian president's ties to the timber and coal industry, and is well worth a read. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with a new interview, and thanks for listening.